Welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast, where tonight we'll be talking about Raith Rovers, home of the footballing experience that you don't want to miss, and their 3-0 trouncing of Hamilton Accies on Tuesday night. And also, we'll be looking forward to Saturday's big derby at East End Park. It is a shorter staff for us tonight, but I am still joined by two proper football men. First of all, we've got Graeme Meldrum. How are you, Graeme?
Fantastic. It's amazing how positive we can be when we've got 3 points in the bag, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we've got Robbie Weir as well. How are you, Robbie?
Yeah, imposter syndrome kicking back in. I was greeting about the lack of comfortable wins, the potential goals from our forwards in the pre-match podcast for this one. Just generally been really negative, and then they go out and do that. So bet they can't do it in a derby though.
Yeah, I think I might just berate them for not having adequate wing backs again. Seemed to work last time. Yeah, don't know. I'm quite sure if anybody saw that coming, but very, very enjoyable all the same. So, as I mentioned, it's another back-to-back episode for us tonight. So, a slightly truncated review of the Hamilton game, and then a bit of a look forward to the Dunfermline game as well. But let's stick to the fun stuff from Tuesday. I suspect we are about to lavish a lot of praise onto this Rovers side. So just to maybe temper that slightly before we dive in with 2 feet. Graeme, to what extent do we need to factor in Accies being absolutely gubbins?
I think we need to put a lot of that in. They were absolutely toilet, weren't they? I think, especially
really?
Second half, when they have somebody like Sean McGinty trying to overlap on the left-hand side, that just sums out how pish they were. They were poor. But you don't know if... It must be difficult. 2 goals down in 7 minutes must be difficult. We didn't even have time to see what style we were playing, what setup we had, where Josh Mullen was playing, for example. I don't think we'd worked that out and we were a goal up. It was extraordinary. But very to script for us going to Hamilton and scoring an early goal.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Les was digging out various statistics. What is it, 10 years since we've... Is it 10 years since we failed to win in Hamilton? Is that right, or is it just 10 years since we've lost?
In the car, my son, on the way home in the car, my son was going through the stats, and it was 2014 was the last time we didn't score at Douglas Park in the first 15 minutes of a game, which is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
And it's not one of those kind of bogus stats either, where sometimes you see things and it's like, he hasn't scored a World Cup goal for 4 years, and you're like, yeah, because that's how World Cups work. I feel like we're never away from Hamilton. I feel like I'm at Hamilton as often as I'm at Starks Park. But I don't know what's going on in Hamilton. I don't think anybody ever knows fully what's going on at Hamilton.
What's going on in Hamilton.
But you see the lineup and the response from their supporters, and it's obviously like they've not been doing particularly well, but they're still like, what the hell has happened here? So Regan Tumulty dropped out. Sean McGinty, as you said, came on at half-time. And, actually improved their backline massively because they were just all over the place from the very beginning, obviously. It's kind of reminiscent of us getting tanked down air, obviously, just with the quick goals. And it felt the same in the way that it was completely deserved as well. Again, you sometimes see that where you score a couple of quick goals and you're like, that's basically a freak occurrence. Actually, this is just a normal game that happens to have had a couple of quick goals in it. Whereas that was just it was the pattern of the game. They just never turned up. I'm actually really surprised that as we sit here now on whatever it is, Thursday night, that John Rankin's not been sacked. I've not got anything against John Rankin, but if you listen to the Rovers highlights, it's pretty clear that I think he's lost the support there. Robbie, were you surprised by how poor Accies were?
Yeah, you saw the comments. If you're frequenting certain Scottish football forums, you read the comments prior to the game and what was mentioned about the performance at Livingston. So you knew that there was a really low bar there potentially for Hamilton. particularly when you see the lineup straight out the gate and they've taken out Regan Tumblety, who, admittedly, as much as he's not the player that he was, still a consistent right back at this level. They played Maguire in there, and just straight from the off, you just felt like, for Rovers, admittedly, obviously, we're not without our injury issues ourselves, but then we've still got a structure there, whereas you just don't feel that with Hamilton. And as you've sort of alluded to, you can tell very, very quickly that their fans don't really have much faith in John Rankin. And to be honest, from the sounds of things, I think they're just really questioning their existence at the moment as a football club, which is really brutal to say. But yeah, their owners, just all the things that they're doing at the moment, like, we've had a crazy, crazy season, but it's been crazy through unexpected occurrences, like Neil Collins going to America, for instance. So you get the Ian Murray on the first day, which, again, nobody expected except from maybe our board, all the drama that's happened off the pitch, and just these things like, for instance, injuries that have came about. Theirs is just sheer, like, a lot of people were very critical of the Rovers board earlier in the season, and part of the reason that I was less critical of them is because you look at a club like Hamilton, and even now you still see powder puff pieces getting put out in the likes of the Daily Mail talking about Zarif Sengun and how you've got their chairman. What's the chairman's name again? It's Craig Brown's brother.
Jock Brown.
Jock Brown. Jock Brown.
One way round, they swapped it for the other. They did have a guy called Jock Brown and swapped him for John Brown, or vice versa.
Yeah, it's Jock Brown. But yeah, there's all these powder puff pieces in the media about, like, look at how well Accies are doing with their community foundation and stuff like that. And yet now they're having to hold their fan forum at the racecourse because seemingly they're due, allegedly, so that we don't get hit with a lawsuit here, that apparently, like, they're due catering like 70 grand or something like that that's unpaid.
The guy that runs their hospitality.
And I'm just going to say, like, let's be honest, in terms of Accies as a club, very, very confusing how, and I use that in the least confusing terms possible, very, very confusing how they can sign players like Ollie Shaw and Ricky Lamy and continue to bring in these lads when their crowds are sitting at 1,000 and yet they're asking for cash payments for season tickets and things like that. It's just a bit like, I wonder what's going on there. It's just one of these situations where you just feel it's almost like a managed decline of sorts, but then they don't own their own stadium, so if they go into administration, who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, this is why I've been so very like, okay, things are not going well with Rovers in terms of this season off the pitch in a lot of instances. I don't think anyone can sort of say the season's panned out as well, but at the same time, like, you just look along there and you're a bit like, aye, that's a proper basket case. That's like, the basket case is on fire.
Yeah, it's kind of there, but for the grace of God, go I type stuff. Like, you're only ever 6 months away from your football club being an absolute basket case.
And yet they'll still get a six-figure sum when Ryan Oney moves inevitably on, which is infuriating. Like, they just seem to exist in this way. Like, it's just like, they'll like walk along the street and just find a giant bag of money, and it's like, we'll take that, that's fine. Like, how? Never happens to us.
Do you remember Ian Harty played for us?
Yes. If you're telling the story,
I think I
love
know the
this
story.
story.
It was when you said big bag of money there, because he had took Hamilton to an industrial tribunal because he'd been released from his contract because of off-field activities, we'll call them, extracurriculars. Again, we don't want to get sued. But so they'd effectively sacked him for something he'd done, and he said it was unjust, and took him to this tribunal, and he won. And he won some, I think it was like £10,000 in compensation. But in the meantime, he had dislocated his shoulder in an injury with wherever he'd gone to play. So they gave him his £10,000 compensation in a holdall full of pound coins because they knew he wouldn't be able to pick it up. This Scottish football is all about. That's what you want. So yeah, Hamilton, no strangers to big bags of money. So whether or not they find one on the street, possibly Ian Hartley just left it there. But that, sorry, to come back to Tuesday night, we touched on it in the pre-match, but sort of felt going in, it's like Hamilton can be got at. They conceded more goals than us, but they'd also scored more goals than us. I hadn't checked this on Monday. I've not checked it now. It was 8 or 9, one way or the other. They'd scored 8 more and conceded 9 more, or vice versa. So I was sort of expecting the Rovers to get chances, but you think, as you said, like Ollie Shaw's been doing very, very well. Even the strikers there on the bench, like Kevin O'Hara and Nikolai Todorov, neither of them are going to be, title-winning strikers at this level, but they'll score goals over the course of a season. Like, they're good strikers to have on your books, and they just never offered that either. They looked like a team just completely devoid of anything. It's a very easy line to go to. They looked like a team who just chucked it, and we're like, look, there's going to be a different gaffer in here soon enough.
I mean, even if you
not knocking my pan in for this guy, basically.
You read the speculation about them apparently potentially having wage issues coming up on the horizon as well, which I've gleefully suggested in about 4 different places at Rovers. Admittedly, as it's never nice to hear about people not getting their wages. We need to go full.
Good caveat.
Full Livingston 2000 and just put in a couple of balls and a bag of bibs for the for Ollie Shaw, and just test the waters with it and just see where we can get. Is my theory on it. Like,
there's some of those players that should be embarrassed to actually ask for a wage after that on Tuesday night. Right, Ricky Lamy at the first goal is running in treacle.
Ricky Lamy.
What?
I don't know.
No idea. I could probably run faster backwards. It was terrible.
It's the wee attempt to grab.
Yes. He's like $6 million man, the way he's kind of running like this, and then audio listeners, you've missed an impression from me there. But then he does just kind of tries to just grab Finlay Pollock at last minute, misses that as well. Like, oh man, go and have a sit down.
It was one of those run like you're putting in as much effort as you can without putting in any effort whatsoever.
I think it's just like running in a dream. He was basically like,
yeah,
my legs aren't working. I want to run, but I can't.
Like I've genuinely, obviously, I've clearly not seen Ricky Lamy for a few years. But I thought when I saw the headline that they've signed him, it's like, he'll do fine at this level. He looked decent enough. He got a move out of this division previously. I'm sure he'll be fine. I hadn't realised that he had not played a single minute of league football for Ross County this season. Only sat on the bench 4 times, and I think you can see why now.
Well, that was Dylan McGowan as well, just coming back from injury. So, chucking him in.
I mean, Ian said in the pre-match that someone from their first game had described him as a cart horse, and he really looked every inch the cart horse in that first half, especially. Like,
just another thing I got wrong on that last podcast. Brilliant.
Just, I couldn't believe that first goal. I want to actually, I think it's, we'll just start running into this now, but a lot of credit to Jamie Gullan, by the way. The header that gets the ball to Pollock is really, really decent. Like, that's proper sort of, hold up type second striker play. A really, really decent header right into Finlay Pollock's path. But if you pause it at that point, if you pause it as the ball gets to Finlay Pollock, there is not a chance that should become him running on, like, clean into the goalkeeper. It's just appalling defending. Like, Lamy, for some reason, starts off so much deeper anyway, but never, just never sorts his body out or anything. Like, I get that he's slow, like, you can see that now, but he looked like a guy who'd never played football before, like, let alone had only played once this season. Like, you'd think, as I say, a guy who's been at this level, done well at this level, got a move to the division above, even if he's not fully fit, should be able to defend that situation, even if it means just taking a foul. Like, there's 2 other defenders here. Right. I don't have these legs. And instead he just waves Pollock through, and then is just in his slipstream as he goes running through. And there's other points in that first half. Gullan does it to him at one point as well. Just runs past him. And then the pass back that he gets away with, that's in the highlights as well. I think that's him.
Don't mention pass backs that people get away with, okay?
Yeah, I was going to say that was
1-0 though, to be fair.
What would you call that? Judicious editing of the highlights. Yeah, if for anyone who wasn't there, Scott Brown passed the ball back to Kevin DeBrusque at one point in the second half. I think it's probably the easiest way to describe that. It was just like a bouncing ball in the middle that he'd slightly overrun, and he was under pressure, and he just hooked it away from the guy who was running in. And Kev just caught it. And I think everybody thought,
but why did Kev wait so long?
This is it.
The referee looked at him and everybody's going, he's going to give a free kick here. Kev, get rid of the ball so he doesn't have time to change his mind. And he just held it for ages. They're like,
they
fucking kick it.
Caught it and they looked up to be like, I'm
going
going to give this.
This is what happens when you slaughter your goalkeeper for not for his kicking abilities, though. It's
to be fair, he could have done about 7 keeping uppies before putting that out the park. But they got away on Hamden as well. So what I think we're saying is he's got impeccable judgment for what referees will and won't give, and fair play to him. Robbie, anything you want to add on that first goal from Finlay Pollock?
No, it was almost like watching a goal on like playing Pro Evo on the easiest mode, wasn't it? Just kind of burst through, and then he's just through a goal.
Straight line.
Just straight through on goal, straight line. Does really, really well. Glad that he's got back on the goal trail as well. Does well to keep his composure. I think it's quite easy to probably overthink in a situation like that. Really happy for the guy because again, he's one of these players that we probably have been quite critical about. He is still young, he's still very raw, but he's just one of these ones where hopefully we can start getting a tune out of him, get his confidence up and kick on. So yeah, again, there's not really been any update from the club as to his sort of injury situation. He obviously went off during the first half, but yeah, in the limited time that he was on, fair play to him, got a goal, got us off moving. So yeah, delight to see.
It's definitely. I mean, it was the kind of play. So a mate of mine's a Hearts fan. Texted me when that goal went in and was like, "How's Pollock getting on?" I said, "Well, I would have said, 5 minutes before that, I would have said that like he puts all the effort in. He's probably not really been used exactly how he would want to be, and he's probably not kind of a striker." It's like, but that was 5 minutes before, because that is exactly what you would want a striker to do in that position. It's great running and it's a really good finish. Just waits, draws the keeper out, puts it under. So, really fingers crossed that injury's not anything too serious. I think he would have been very well suited to this Dunfermline game on Saturday, by all accounts, which obviously we'll come on and talk about. So that is a really unfortunate one, but hopefully it's just a week or two and he can get back into the mix. In very short order, we then get the second goal. Graeme, nice to see the Rovers scoring from a set piece for a change.
I know. It's actually, I was thinking about the goal, and I remember I used to go to the Rovers with my dad for years, and he was always like, whenever a corner comes in, about 6 huge guys try and go and header it, and they all miss it, and the ball trundles out for a throw-in. Yeah. So he's not been with us for about 12 years, so fair play. The Rovers have finally scored and put somebody where he said for generations they should have somebody. And it was essentially cross come in, everybody missed it, and Jamie Gullan's just in the right place, and what a strike. Keeper had no chance. Kept it low, plenty of power, no chance at all through all those bodies.
Robbie, if that had been a goal that we'd conceded, how long do you think we would have taken on the post-match to talk about the defending of it?
Don't know, probably about 20 minutes, wouldn't we? It would be straight away be Leslie add it to the list, into the Excel spreadsheet, and to be absolutely torn to shreds and analysed. Got to say though, huge apology to Jamie Gullan for I've been so as I said, I was quite on the fence in terms of him re-signing, just going back to the I said the pre-match podcast, but fair play to him. Looked fantastic as a number 9. The other night he was absolutely everywhere, but in particular just causing a problem for their backline. I felt that with his goal, he's in the right place at the right time, strikes it so well. Another Jamie Gullan goal at New Douglas Park. Seems to love playing there. got to hope that Accies don't sign him at some point when they inevitably get through their wage problems and terminal decline. But yeah, because otherwise they'll be on for a Ballon d'Or there. But yeah, just really well taken goal. Delighted to see it. And just really good build-up play as well, even beforehand, getting the ball down the wing and forcing the corner, forcing them into being the ones to make the decision. So yeah, got to say, absolutely delighted with it.
Yes, I can tell you exactly, if we were criticising the defending, I would be posting the freeze frame of the moment the ball hits the ground. It basically just takes a bounce, pretty much at the penalty spot, and the entire Hamilton team are like 4 yards deeper, just each of them holding on to a Rovers player. Like, oh, what's it doing over there? It just, like, all of them go. But then there really is sort of nobody else you would want that ball to fall to. We had a bit of a conversation a few weeks back about Lewis Jameson and how he's maybe not the cleanest striker of a football.
Now, there
Lewis
might
Jameson,
be a reason for that. If you saw him pre-match on Tuesday, in fact, he seems to be enjoying pies, football pies. I don't know about the catering. You said something about the catering not getting paid. Well, Lewis Jameson was right in there just in case they run out of stock. Yeah, a pie in each hand. Good lad. Love it.
Fair play to him for being in the away end, and fair play to him for having 2 pies and then getting back into the pie queue. Good man. Enjoying what he can of Scottish cuisine before he goes off to join the Tallahassee jock straps or whoever it is in America he's away to join. But yeah, we'd kind of criticised him for maybe not being the cleanest striker of a football. Jamie Gullan might be the very opposite of that. He is absolutely who you want to hit a ball like that. And true to form, very much puts his foot through it, and it's very central. The keeper sees it so late that he's got absolutely no chance.
It's quite telling though for Jamie Gullan that he comes in for a game like this, and this is he obviously came off the bench against Falkirk for a sort of cameo. But this is his first game in 4 months, and he already looks fitter than Cody David did. At any point, Cody, really not looking good for you. I appreciate that you got a goal in a derby, but yeah, just I get you treat each individual player on their own merits, but just.
Yeah, I think we can already strike that one as an upgrade.
Well, it's on the same number of goals, so.
Yeah, and I think we knew that already from what we know of Jamie Gullan, but certainly he's not lost anything. Having been in Ireland for 8 months or whatever it was, and I mean, actually, just very impressed with his general play as well. He stayed very central, which I'm always a big fan of, and just did the job that we need them to do, and looked very good, and. Obviously, a change of strike partner, as you said. Finlay Pollock had to go off, and everybody's favourite, Aiden Marsh, came on, and didn't take him too long before he got himself on the score sheet for the first time. Lovely bit of bopping it about from the Rovers. Just little triangles all over the place. Liquid football, and an excellent assist from Josh Mullen, who I want to talk about a little bit more in a second or two, with a stellar performance at wing back. But Graeme, give me your general thoughts on that goal, please.
It was just the passing. I mean, was it 10, 11 passes? And it was just the football you love to see, and the football we have missed for so long. Yeah, that is the kind of football we want to see. It was just fantastic, and half the team involved in it. Good play. Finally get somebody wide. I actually thought, from where we were sitting, I thought the ball to Mullen wasn't the greatest. But you got it. Great cross again. You can see Marsh has come off his guy. One touch, turn, bang, goal. Easy, yeah. Football's easy. It's so easy.
Just a lovely looking goal as well, because it's all those passes, and then he very much passes it into the goal as well. He's not just had a big swing at it, just very nicely takes the touch into the bottom corner. Keeper's got no chance. Robbie, do you think that's goal of the season so far?
No, because Lewis Stevenson's goal, come on. there's just something beautiful that we got our first goal from open play in with such a good goal for a player that had obviously been linked with the Rovers for so long. However, Aiden Marsh, that was an excellent effort. Again, he's done really well to just the way that he just handles the ball, controls it. As you say, Josh Mullen deserves a lot of credit overall just for his performance. But yeah, the delivery that he put in, that's what we'd really hope to see from Josh Mullen. And then, yeah, the takedown and then just the finish to put us into a 3-0 lead, which I don't think anyone really saw coming, but we'll absolutely take it. Yeah, fantastic. Just, it felt like we could really kick on and do some damage just based on that alone. And it was very exciting just to read sort of I was following the stream of for a very heavily pixelated, maybe not the most regulated of places, shall we say, but yeah, just exciting to see in the group chat just the people going goal of the season. So I'm expecting a 40-yard in off the bar, only to see a slick passing move that came to such a good conclusion.
I think it demonstrates a couple of the really the big plus points out of that game as well. So Josh Mullen, I said already. So I had a big rant previously about wing backs and not playing wing backs as wing backs and all this kind of stuff. And the fact that we don't really have any natural wing backs at all. So we've been playing full backs there. Josh Mullen, obviously, the other way to go. You're asking a winger to drop back and do it. Now, again, I feel kind of duty bound to caveat this by saying he didn't really have to do much defending over the piece. But what he did have to do, he did very well. He stopped a good few crosses, which is a lot of what you're asking the guy who's out there to do. But in an attacking sense, I thought he was brilliant. Just absolutely what you want from a wing-back. Like positionally, where he needs to be. You see it for the goal, he's hitting that byline. There's the one slightly earlier where he puts in the cross from deep for Gullan.
That was a beautiful cross.
The cross is incredible. And that, I think, is where you see how dangerous it is, because they've effectively given him that space because they're like, you're 40 yards off the byline. Like, what are you going to do? Banging across for there? Oh, right, that's exactly what he's going to do. So that just shows you how dangerous that can be. And then the other one that really sort of facilitated that was Jordan Doherty, who had moved in. Robbie, as you had sort of asked for.
I got something right.
And, I was a wee bit hesitant, saying like, not really seen him there, wonder how he'll do. Again, caveat applies. Don't know if he actually had to do any defending from where he was, but certainly didn't look like he was out of place even slightly. If you saw that game, you'd be like, that guy has played every game of his career at centre half. And again, in that sort of, either side of a 3, he was stepping out when called for. If there was space in front of him, he was happy to step into it. You see that as part of that goal. And he's playing passes into the midfield. And when Mullen's tearing down the wing, he's happy to drop across and sort of make it a 4. So really positive signs there from those two. Goes a long way to kind of addressing the balance there. Now, would I want Josh Mullen playing wing back at Celtic Park, for example? I don't know. Ask me again in a week's time and I'll tell you. But I'm really, really encouraged to see that. I think it addresses an issue that I think we were kind of looking at over the last few weeks.
And I think, as you said about him putting that early cross in, I think we've been very guilty of tippy-tappy triangles on the edge of the box, so sort of no penetration. Whereas Josh Mullen just all day got the ball, did what he needed to do, and got a cross in. He must have had at least 12 crosses in that game. He just got it, and that's what he was doing. And it was just great to see the ball going in like that and the chances that he created instead of, just intricate stuff looking for a gap. Yeah. He's just like, I've got the ball, I've got space, bang, in it goes.
Got to really, really echo that. I know I'd sort of said that before, that we were too sort of protective in possession. And I think that kind of really sort of illustrates the point as to what I was sort of saying there. Not to blow my own trumpet or anything like that, but like you're really, if you put the ball in, especially even a team like Accies, they've got a lot of height at the back, but they're not necessarily good. Like if you can create a chance, you can create an opportunity. And we saw that Gullan had obviously the header that he put over the bar. Aiden Marsh had a couple of chances as well. So it really shows teams are there to be exposed at the back. It's an issue, I think, that's more systemic across sort of our level of football rather than being specific to Rovers, I would say. Like we know very much about how we struggle with crosses. But as well, you can probably apply that to a good few teams across the league. So if we're going to start doing that, I'm all for it.
There was nearly 2 own goals as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
There was one McGinty just knocked past, and there was one, I don't know who it was, but the guy didn't have a clue where it went. He had
just came off him.
He didn't have a clue where it went, and it nearly went in the far corner.
I was saying if that had gone in, it would have been like 15,000 Rontgens worth of fallout from that home support who were in full fettle booing John Rankin and the Accies team.
The other thing with that as well is having 2 strikers in the park really helps with that. Because even if you think about like earlier in the season, Jack Hamilton, he's up front on his own. You can bang in crosses if you want, but it's easier for the defence to handle. Whereas if you've got Gullan and Marsh or Gullan and Pollock, just by virtue of the fact there's 2 of them there, it's much harder for the defence to cope with. The other thing is, this is a bit of an aside, but these short corners that we've adopted, very clearly a Barry Robson thing, where you kick the ball 1 foot and then somebody else crosses it in. Don't know what the purpose of that is. Seems to really work. Our corners look so dangerous.
Even getting Stevenson onto the corners from the sort of right hand side and Easton on the left, you can see it does have an impact.
But it's like, what? I don't know. Again, this is a bit like man marking at corners. Like, I understand that there is a logic to this. It just doesn't, I don't know what it is. Added to the long list of things I don't understand. But like, how much difference can that make? You pass the ball, whatever, a yard, and then the guy traps it and crosses it in. Like, what did that yard get you? I have no idea, but it completely outfoxed Accies a good couple of times, and at Falkirk. So fair play. I'm totally on board with it.
You know who likes to ask questions in terms of the Rovers support about short corners?
Who's that?
Richard Cook, funnily enough, sits behind me in the south stand, and fucking short corners. It's often the cry.
Well, these are so short it almost doesn't count, but somehow seems to work. So I'm completely happy if that's putting other people's gas at a peep. You'll not hear any complaints from me either. Couple other just sort of more general points from this. Lewis Stevenson on that other side, as you said, Robbie, doing very well. Again, I don't know whether it was just the confidence you get from being 2-0 up after 7 minutes, but it seemed like he was, again, doing the right things and in the right space and getting forward. And then, that was the other thing, sorry, to go back just a second. Second half in particular, Dylan Easton coming across to basically to sort of join up with Josh Mullen, taking on the left back. 2 of them just look like they're having the best time in the world, and that's just a complete sort of nightmare prospect, because it really is a case of you've got the 2 of them and you're like, well, I know this one's going to try and run by me, and I know this one's definitely going to try and cross it, and there's no way they're going to try the opposite, but it's still so difficult to try and actually stop. Like, I don't want to give him the space, but I need to block him. And Dylan Easton really kind of growing into that central number 10 role as well, when he's got that ability to drift across, or freedom to drift across and kind of get involved as and when he likes. So I'm generally, I prefer him out on a wing, but he's doing very, very well. And again, that's on the evidence of this one game, and I don't want to overstate it, but you're starting to kind of mitigate that loss of Sam Stanton, the only kind of dedicated central number 10 in the squad. But if Easton keeps playing like that, then we'll not see that impact anywhere near as much. Let's see, right, what else have I got? So the second half, it was kind of just more of the same, really. John Rankin making a rarely seen quadruple half-time substitution, which feels like that in and of itself should be a sackable offence. Not doing it, but having to do it.
The Neil Collins school of it didn't go right in the first half.
Aye.
Yeah. There's a thick of it line where it's like, if we sack you after a week, it looks like we've messed up. If we sack you after a year, it looks like you've messed up. I've cleaned that quote up slightly. Like, if you have to make 4 substitutions at half time, you've messed up. Like, that's your fault. And amazingly, he's still in a job somehow.
Can we just mention that post-match interview as well? I'm trying to remember what the specifics of it he said, but it was like, what? The ball's been in the net 3 times, but they've barely created anything.
Yeah,
but of course they've had a lot of chances.
To the effect of, it was like one of those games where the team has 3 shots and they all go in, except obviously they did have lots of other shots. Like, yeah, I don't know what that means. And I think I said that to you. Like, sometimes you hear someone say something in an interview, and you're like, "Oh, literally what you said doesn't make sense." But I understand what you meant. Like, I realise what you were driving at. You've just kind of tripped over your words. I have no idea what he meant when he was like, yeah, it was like one of those games where you're really unlucky and everything that you face goes in, except we did also face a lot of other stuff that didn't go in.
Because you said it right from the off. You typed out the first part of what you've just said there. It's like sometimes you can hear people say something and it doesn't seem like it makes sense on face value. And then you like think about it and you're like, actually, there's kind of a point there. You can understand what they were trying to say, but they've just butchered it. And I was like, oh God, have I been really dense here? Which is not the first time that's happened. And then you're like, but that categorically makes no sense. Like,
I think then a final point from me, and I'll get you to see if there's anything else you want to throw in. In fact, let's do man of the match as well, for the sake of it. But just in case, I'm sure there's not, but just in case there's any other wing-back nerds out there. The second half substitution for the Rovers, Lewis Gibson came on and went into sort of left wing-back, which I thought was interesting. Because if you start making substitutions, you've got other ways to square that circle. You know, if you want to take Stevenson off, you can go to a 4. You could push Liam Dick into that wing-back position. But it was, and again, I know we were 3-0 up, but interesting to see that having started with Mullen on one side, he's then gone for a winger on the other side as well when he makes the change. So again, just maybe a sign that he's looking for more.
He didn't call them wing backs. See, when he's interview post-match, he didn't call them wing backs. Was it low wing backs or something they called them?
Oh, I missed that. I've got additional wing-back jargon. I can't believe I missed it.
I can't remember.
I'm going to take a note to go back.
I'm sure it was low wing-backs. So, I don't know what that means. We need to Google that one.
Post-interview, post-podcast review.
Yeah. But it was honestly, it was something like low wing-backs, and I thought, does that mean that the wing-backs weren't pushing up as much? But Josh Mullen was, so...
I'm not...
Low wing-backs sound like shoes your granddad would wear. That's all I've got to say about that.
I'm not too much on the technical jargon, but what I will say is it's good to see Lewis Gibson back on the pitch as well. I know that he's sort of been in and out under Neil Collins, and then again after the Falkirk game he's not really had much game time, so it's good to see him. And again, Kai Montague comes on and looks really assured, so it's great to see the two of them getting game time again and just being used. Games like that are exactly the perfect opportunity to try and get the best out of them as well. Just give them that freedom to sort of say, look, we're 3-0 up. And again, every single Rovers fan in the stand probably has PTSD against Accies when they've been 3-0 up. But these lads shouldn't, so they should be able to go out and play football and enjoy it. So, yeah, it was great to see him back on the pitch.
Yeah, one of the very last highlights is a chance where Gibson runs inside, plays like a reverse pass into the channel for Montague, who then cuts it in for Marsh, and I think he maybe puts it over the bar. Can't remember. But
I think we were talking about the last highlight where he's starting to have a square goal with Todorov.
No, we'll cover that in a second. But just that, I thought if that had gone in, you talk about like 3 teenagers. I think I'm right in saying like, turned 28, which bodes well. I mean, I know that Aiden Marsh obviously is on loan, although if we could sign him forever,
no,
I would
he's staying. He's staying forever.
Happy with that. But yeah, definitely, all three of them looking very decently, certainly looking like parts of the first team squad, which is what you want. We're not just carrying these guys for no reason. And yeah, there was a slight bit of disgruntlement, what we call that at the end. Nikolai Torov, he left one on Jamie Gullan right at the end, and it was just frustration where he wasn't getting the ball and he went in kind of too hard. It was nice to see that Hammer's teammates just sticking up for him a wee bit at full time there. Graeme, any final thoughts from you and a nomination for man of the match?
What I did is Paul Hanlon left-footed?
Yes.
That was 5 left-footed players wearing the pack, which is bizarre because it's normally like there's very few left-footed players. So you had Dicko, you had Stevenson, Hanlon, Marsh, and Gullan at one point, and you don't often see that. I just thought that was kind of weird.
That's why we ran over the top of Accies.
I
don't know about Livingston's left-footed players, but
yeah, do you know things that happen and you're like, why does that happen? But it was just sitting there going, wait a minute, because it was when Marsh came on, you're like, who's going to go left?
Yeah,
because they're both left-footed, and who's going to go right? So that was just a strange thing. Man of the match, I don't know. Anybody but Kev, and it's only not Kev because he had very little to do.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Paul Hanlon was outstanding. I thought he just strolled that game. Absolutely strolled that game. I thought that's what we thought we were getting as a centre-half. He's just going to stroll it. Some of his crossfield passes to Josh Mullen in the first half were outstanding as well. Josh Mullen, I thought, was excellent. So very difficult. So I'll split it. I'll go Paul Hanlon and Josh Mullen.
Fair play. Robbie, I know you were watching through 4 pixels. Do you feel you saw enough to have a man of the match shit? And I get it. Any final thoughts on that game?
Probably not, but no, I did see the highlights though, so that sort of gives me at least a bit of an understanding as to what to expect. Yeah, I would agree that Josh Mullen's got to be in contention for it. Really, really impressive performance from him in that sort of wing back role. And I know that we've sort of spoken about it before because we've used him on sort of the right side more as sort of like whether a full back or a sort of wing back before. But this was just the perfect opportunity to be able to utilise him in that position. I would really give a shout out as well to, again, 3 forwards getting on the goal trail, which was great. And then on top of that, we've not really spoken about Scott Brown or Ross Matthews, but both of them played 90 minutes and both of them looked really assured. They were just, any time the ball was picked up in the middle of the park, they were doing exactly what they needed to. They were moving it about quickly. But again, I said after the Falkirk game, we got into that position where the second half we were trying to rush the ball far too much. There was none of that on Tuesday night. It was very just like, okay, we can keep it. But also as well, we were playing off some. We were, to quote a certain Aiden Marsh, bopping it about, which seems to have entered the Rovers vernacular now. I must have watched his post-match interview about like 3 times now, just because it's so enjoyable. And I can see why everyone's on the Aiden Marsh train. He just seems like such a good guy. Like, just there was a tweet that was going out mentioning about how he's like, we need to change the slogan from "You belong" to "You belong in it" as the new one. But yeah, just great to see a young guy coming up. He's out of his comfort zone, came up to a new place in Scotland, completely different to what he's been used to in terms of his style of football, and he's just seems like he's loving life. Just a great personality to have about, I'm going to guess. So yeah, I did like Davies' tweet about, I know that there's been so much in the press over the last week about Rovers and off the pitch and everything that's happened with Sam Stanton, which again we're not going to go into, but Aiden Marsh is a perfect example of just a young guy that just people are thriving off of, and they're loving the chat that he's coming out with, and he's going to get the full support from the fan base. Like, it's just, he just comes up, applies himself, doing really, really well, and absolutely loving his contribution.
I'd echo that as well. I think he's like a breath of fresh air. He's somebody. It's how you would imagine we would be if we played for the Rovers. We would just be buzzing. Would just be like living the. He feels like he's living the dream, and he's just so infectious. You actually put his interview on, and he just opens his mouth, He's happy, he's smiling, he's got with them puppy dog eyes. I'm not falling in love. I'm not falling in love with him yet. You don't fall in love with a lone player.
Dick will be getting upset.
Too late, man.
Exactly.
Too late.
Exactly. It's infectious. It's just infectious, and it's brilliant. His enthusiasm and everything's brilliant. And the fact he scored the goal, because sometimes you get these infectious players and they're shit. Yeah, he's no. So, yeah, love him. More of him, please.
Yeah, in the immediate aftermath of that goal, Les has pledged that if we went on to win on Tuesday, which we did do, if we also win on Saturday, he's going to cycle along the seafront in Oban flying a giant Yorkshire flag from the back of his bike. So if that's not motivation, I don't know what is. So yeah, fingers crossed. We get to see whatever the outcome of that particular expedition is. I just very briefly for the man of the match, throwing my full weight behind Josh Mullen for that. Just excellent again. Actually, technically being played out of position, you would never have known it. Just that's what I want to see from a wing back, and I'm on a real wing back drive at the moment, so it would be rude not to.
See, to finally piggyback on, again, I touched on it before, but we mentioned this week in Connolly, but Josh Mullen, resilience, just been out of the team for quite a while, had to be very patient to get his chance to come back in, and then puts in a man of the match performance. So yeah, more credit to him.
Absolutely, definitely. Right, let's have ourselves a break, and then we'll come back and talk about Dunfermline.
Blair,
Yes, mate.
you're a man,
Yes.
and you have thoughts and feelings and emotions.
Yes.
Are you good at talking about all that stuff?
Well, I try my best, but I don't know. Probably not as much as I should.
I'm the same. I feel better after getting stuff like that off my chest, but I don't do it anywhere near often enough. Have you heard about Andy's Man Club?
They're brilliant. They create a safe space for men to sit down and talk about the important stuff. And they do it right across the country as well.
Yeah, exactly. They've got more than 200 meetings across the UK, and it's every Monday night at 7 o'clock, including one at Starks Park.
And if anyone wants more information on it, they can go to andysmanclub.co.uk or search for Andy's Man Club on Facebook. It's okay to talk, and now we're going to get back to talking about the Rovers.
So it's a battle of two new managers, but there's been the sort of new manager bouncy ball rather than just a bounce. Barry Robson lost 3-0, won 2-1, lost 2-0, won 3-0, and Michael Tidser and Dunfermline won 3-0 and lost 3-0. So the repeating pattern doesn't really work in our favour. But Robbie, given that we're coming off a 3-0 win, they're coming off a 3-0 loss, you got to be confident, right?
Yes, I would say so. I don't think that... I was reading some of the comments made by their fans following the game against Airdrie. Now, I watched the highlights for that game, and it seemed really strange because Dunfermline seemed to be passing the ball about really, really well, and having a lot of possession. Had the ball up the park quite a fair bit, created a few chances, but then Airdrie just seemed to sucker punch them a few times and then just get in. And yet you read the comments and it seems like a lot of their fans commenting about we can't be playing the tippy-tappy stuff, we need to get out of this relegation battle, etc., etc. So it's very hard to judge as to where that'll apply. Again, I think based on the performances that we've seen, this Rovers team have kind of thrived off that when we went to Falkirk away. So quite keen to see how the team's set up and really how the game pans out, because it's a very interesting one to keep an eye on and to watch.
Yeah, already drawing comparisons to Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham with Michael Tidser, and a couple of people say the same thing, where he came out after that game, bear in mind they'd just been scudded 3-0, and said, I'm not going to change a thing. That's how we play football. Effectively, I think what he's saying is there will be an adjustment period, and during the adjustment period we might get beat 3-0, but it'll serve us better in the long run. Which, I mean, maybe you can see on the face of it how that might make sense. But it does seem like, as you say, that the general opinion from the Dunfermline support seems to be a bit of a kind of putting the cart before the horse. Like they've just not really got the personnel to do it. The big standout there being Joe Chalmers is being used as an inverted left back. I don't know if that's necessarily something I would choose to see. But as you say, they did start that game against Airdrie pretty well, and then it just seemed like once the first goal went in, they kind of fell apart. But it certainly seems like, by all accounts, they will try to play the same way again. Very possession-based, very based on the evidence of Saturday. Quite kind of prosaic, quite slow. Now that, as you say, the Rovers got a lot of joy in the first half at Falkirk, going up against a side like that. Finlay Pollock, I alluded to this earlier, is going to be a big miss, I think, on that front, because that was where he really shone, and with a goal under his belt on Tuesday night, I think he'd have been really looking forward to getting stuck into another side that was going to try and pass the ball around him. But, I mean, I've absolutely no issue with Aiden Marsh and Jamie Gullan doing it. Graeme, what are you expecting going into this one?
I think, you know what you're saying about Tidser, that's either a very brave statement to make or a very stupid statement to make. I'm going to stick and do it whether I've got the tools to do it or not. So we'll soon find out. I think what we're beginning to see, I think we're seeing it more with Barry Robson than we did with Neil Collins. I think we're seeing an identity. I know everybody, right, that's such a shitey, wanky word, right, identity, right? We're now beginning to see the Rovers are going to get the ball, they're going to try and hit in the break, and when they lose the ball, they're going to hunt in packs and win it back. Yeah. Very, very quickly. That's essentially what we're going to do. And you've seen it from Falkirk game. We didn't see anything at here because Barry Robson has only had, 48 hours or something. You've seen it at the Falkirk game. You've seen on Tuesday night that is essentially how we're going to play. Now, if somebody's going to sit back and just pass it and passively and keep playing it and keep looking for it, giving it and getting it back and stuff like that, they're going to be all over them. So it's two different styles, and I'm quite happy with the style that we're going to put out against theirs, and see what happens. I think the only definite we can say is Chris Hamilton's going to get booked at some point. Apart from that, who knows? But yeah, I certainly see Robson's come in. That's his style, boom, and he's done it. And I think he's done it with the players that he's got available, and he's made the players fit that style. Whether Tidser can do that, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the big thing. We talked about it before about, setting yourself up to always just counter what the opposition do can be a little bit sort of defeatist, but ignoring what the opposition do is naive, I think. And this is, I think, the trap that, well, it's very much the trap that John McGlynn didn't fall into last weekend, where he saw us once, saw what we were going to do, which was completely, perfectly set up to counter the way he normally plays, flipped it on his head, and very comfortably won the game as a result. Maybe Michael Tidser's playing 4D chess, and he's saying one thing in the press, and he's going to do the exact opposite on Saturday. I don't know. My gut feel is that he's not. My gut feel is that they probably will come out and start just trying to pass the ball around the game. And, I think we're all, to varying degrees, we're generally quite big fans of Kyle Benedictus, or were certainly when he played for us. But he's not the guy that you think, like, if he's your best defender, you don't then automatically go, well, then let's start bopping it about. Like, he's decent. He's not, like, the silkiest guy in the world. And when you start trying to go, well, I'm going to play Joe Chalmers at left back, presumably because of his passing ability, on his, like, but on the wrong side. Like, I don't know. It feels to me like he's trying to be a little bit too clever. But the thing is, much like Hamilton, Dunfermline's forward players are much better than their defenders, and that's always a tricky proposition. To see, with Hamilton, we scored twice really early on. It sounds like Airdrie, once they got goals against Dunfermline, the heart kind of went out Dunfermline's forwards players a little bit, but I think if they can get the first goal, they can be a very dangerous side. So it will be very interesting to see. I know we're only 4 games into Barry Robson compared to 2 for Tidser, but it does feel like there's a lot more question marks about Dunfermline and what we can expect from them. The Rovers feel like they're settling into a bit more of a kind of groove, at least in terms of the way that they'll approach the game. Robbie, the fact that the Rovers played Tuesday night, Dunfermline the week off, do you think that's likely to have much of an impact for this?
I hope not. I think that Tuesday night's result has quite big implications for where we're at. I don't think any Rovers fans would specifically say it because we know what Rovers are like. But if you see a lot of the commentary from the outside, it's a lot of our fans sort of saying, like, look, with this Accies team, you should be safe. Like, because they just looked absolutely gubbins, can't get a result together. But at the same time, yeah, it's a derby, so I would fully expect everyone to be up for it, particularly guys that are coming in, the likes of Aiden Marsh. And if he gets on the pitch, I know he didn't. I was quite surprised, actually, that we didn't use him at all, give him some game time towards the end of the game with George Cattell on Tuesday night. But yeah, these are big opportunities for players. As we said about Cody David earlier on in the season, you can have a pretty mediocre Rovers career, but even if you score a goal in a derby, then you're still part of the history then. And of course, these are games that the likes of Dylan Easton, in particular, he's the type of player that you sit up and you can sort of say, like, if he's on his game, there's a reason that you get the whole showman moniker. So, yeah, I think that might have an impact, but then at the same time, we've seen plenty of games before where we've had midweek games or we've played against teams that have had midweek games and it's gone the complete opposite way, where the other side, or Rovers, look very sluggish despite having a week rest. So, yeah, I guess time will tell.
I think it helps winning 3-0.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure Accies trudged off that park with very heavy legs, very much not looking forward to having to play United on Saturday. Whereas hopefully, with the Rovers, that bit of extra enjoyment that you get from that. It's 3 points always good to get a bit of energy back into the legs. Graeme, in terms of a lineup, I think that we've got an obvious question mark that Pollock, I think we would have to assume, it is going to drop out. Straightforward swap to bring the only other available striker back in, or would you like to see any other changes?
I would probably put Aidan Connolly in instead of Pollock, because at least then you still have a threat on the bench. And Marsh,
interesting. Yeah.
That's what I'd look to do. And we know Aidan Connolly can play that role because he's played it for us a couple of times and played it very, very well. It's nothing against Aiden Marsh. It's just I think you need a wee bit of firepower on the bench should something else happen. With regards to how we play, who knows? Yeah, it'll be the same system. It's whether he goes with Josh Mullen. As you say, it's really difficult because he was, I would have said man of the match. Well, we all said man of the match anyway. Yeah. But Hamilton was shit. And there was times in that first half and in the second half where it looked like Josh Mullen was playing his own game because there was nobody within about 20 yards of him.
Yeah.
And he exploited that. He'll no get, we don't believe he would get that against Dunfermline. So it's up to Barry Robson. Does he go with Jordan Doherty at centre half or does he bring Ewan Murray back in? Don't know. I think those are maybe the 3 positions up front and the 2 on the right hand side of the fence and the right wing back are probably open for debate. I think the rest of the team kind of picks itself.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. These are the points where you've got jerseys up for grabs. I have to say, for me, I would be sticking to what we had with just Marsh for Pollock. And it's really on the assumption that Dunfermline are going to try this slow build from the back. Marsh and Gullan just running at them, effectively. I think it's... See, we kind of saw that the second Falkirk game. If they're not doing that, maybe you need to make a relatively quick change, not necessarily in personnel, but in terms of strategy. But on that basis, I would be going same system, same lineup, and just march in for Pollock. Robbie, how about you?
I'm in full agreement with you, to be honest, Duncan. I would keep the same lineup, obviously with the change for Pollock coming off and Marsh coming on. I did have a sort of question mark about Josh Mullen playing wing back again, because I think it's going to be a different game that Dunfermline will play compared to Accies, who, as Graeme rightfully says, absolutely abysmal. However, this is the Oh No 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 podcast, and as we know, we will hit that stop record button, and inevitably, then you will see some clouds over Kirkcaldy, and oh, would you like a late night arrival? Certainly heard through the grapevine that there's sort of potential irons in the fire with Rovers looking at players potentially signing. Right, at least basically giving a run of the rule over them. Whether that comes to anything's completely different. It won't be Michael McKenna, because he has just signed a deal for East Fife, which is unsurprising, to be honest. But yeah, I think if we were looking at any sort of, it wouldn't surprise me if we're looking down in the market in terms of down south, with like potential Premier League under 23 players, because that seems to be the route that Barry Robson's taken at the moment. So again, my point from all of this, as long-winded as it is that we don't know what the next 24 hours will hold, because I'm sure it is a concern at the moment. Courier article, the other Courier article that's came out just today was saying that Jack Hamilton's going to need to go and see a specialist and the season might be over, which again, horrific news for Jack Hamilton. Really, I really feel for the guy, because it just feels like a lot of people are just like, look, he's just gubbed, which I feel, again, it's one of these ones. If he comes back after seeing the specialist, does that change things for him? Can he get a consistent run of games after that? So he'll need to be patient, and I hope that he is okay in that position. But yeah, it's really one of those ones where we're just going to need to wait and see, and yeah, just see if anything comes in tomorrow, as to any sort of news or updates as to where we're going.
I think there's also, I would be very surprised if there wasn't at least one new Dunfermline player in between now and kick-off. Not least because the Daily Record's linked them to about 7 different teenagers with double-barreled surnames today. Just seems like on the hour every hour. There's another one. It's just like Leeds under 23, Simon, Blyman, Chimon, like just endless teenagers. So
did you see they get linked early afternoon with Alan Douglas Munn?
I don't know how Alan would do in a low block.
He's got to be better than Joe Chalmers at left back.
Play him as an inverted left back at the Joe Chalmers. That's very true.
Watch as he scores now.
Yeah, didn't say things like that. Yeah, let's podcast. Leave that game on that horrifyingly worrying note. But before we leave entirely, Robbie, I believe you have a Should McStay or Should Dar Go for us.
Threw this together just as a last-minute emergency addition to the podcast. I wasn't actually meant to be on this evening, but Scott left his laptop at work, and Ian's had an absolute nuke with his neighbours, apparently. So it's no going well for those two. Anyway, clue number 1. I went down a bit of a Leslie route with this. I share the same name as a Scottish badminton player who has played at the Commonwealth Games.
I'm going to shock you, Robbie. I do not know any badminton players.
I've got a Scottvec in badminton, level 2. Earned in 1988. There you go. There's a random badminton fact.
Any guesses for clue 1?
I'm going to say Callum Smith. Sounds like a badminton player to me.
Badminton players no posh. You need somebody with a posh name.
Dunfermline, I've got them all on trial.
Graeme?
Nah, nothing.
Clue number 2. I have played for Scotland under 19s.
Paul Shields played for Scotland in the 19s. I wonder if he played badminton. Paul Shields.
I'm going to stick with Callum Smith. I've got no memory of him playing for Scotland's 19s, but he feels like the kind of guy who might have done.
Clue number 3. I am a Fife Elite graduate.
Oh, when did Fife Elite start?
Right, there can't be many Fife Elite graduates. I mean, obviously, that have come through with us. I suspect that's too easy a clue for Robbie to have given us, for him to come through with us. I suspect he might have come through at one of the others. But that's really recent for that to have happened. Right, so the only...
You're probably I'm like Blair, I need an era, but you're probably picking an era when my kids were really small and I didn't go to many games. And that's my excuse for having no answer at all.
So, Fife Elite graduates that I can think of, and I'm going to get some of these wrong. But Dylan Tate, Kieran Bowie. I mean, Kieran Bowie played for Scotland's 19s. Also played for Scotland's 21s. Robbie would have told us that. And Kieran Bowie's too obvious. Trying to think who else actually came through. Quinn Coulson? Can't be that many Quinn Coulsons kicking about playing badminton.
That's quite a posh name for a badminton player, to be fair.
I'm trying to think if Craig Easton had his 21s, whether that was like after Fife Elite, in the sense of like, was it like Fife Elite into his 21s?
Reece Donaldson.
That your guess?
Aye, why no?
Right, I'm going to say Dylan Tate in the interest of moving the game along.
Both myself and my brother currently play in Scotland.
Can I go back to Callum Smith?
If you want.
Something's just occurred to me that Callum Smith might be a Fifer. I've not got a clue.
He is he not?
Actually, I think he might be. I've not got a clue who his youth.
He came through at Dunfermline, didn't he? Aye, I'm sure he came through at Dunfermline.
Graeme? Sticking with Reece Donaldson.
Aye, even though he's not got a brother.
My clubs have included all the teams discussed on tonight's podcast.
Callum Smith played for Hamilton, did he not? His brother plays for Hamilton. No, I don't think he's got a brother.
So
who were you thinking?
I was thinking about Ben Williamson.
That's what I was thinking. Does he play for Dunfermline?
Don't know. He's from Dunfermline, I think. Oakley, possibly. But he was on loan a dozen times for Rangers. He's one of those. Could have played for umpteen sides. I'm going to stick with...
He didn't come through at Fife Elite, did he? He didn't come through at Rangers.
Yeah. But then, you never know when these guys picked up and moved about. I'm going to stick with Callum Smith just on the off chance that he feels quite Hamilton-y. And again, I realise it's largely because of his brother. But
I mean, he has a brother and he plays football. So
yeah, I'm really just wanting to be able to say that I got this based on his name sounding like a badminton player, to be honest. I'm really just holding on to that.
Graeme, you sticking the same? Reece Donaldson still?
I just keep going with that one.
He's gone fully into team mode.
Yeah.
I scored last season against two of my former clubs for Rovers.
Callum Smith scored against Airdrie. He scored in a derby?
No, he didn't, did he?
You know what's really bad? I've typed Callum Morrison that much into our chat with the extra like 7 N's that it just comes up. Callum just comes up with an extra 7 N's on my autocorrect.
He scored for Rovers against 2 former clubs. Not necessarily the 2 former clubs that we're talking about early in the podcast.
See, I've an absolutely terrible memory for anything like game by game. This is where, Robbie, you are very good.
And I'm
at
over 50 as
remembering.
well, so I have no memory at all.
I'm always like in awe during these games where someone will mention something, you'll be like, no, because that was 2005 and it was Chris McLeod scored the header after Todd Lumsden's volley, and I'm like, I don't remember anything.
There's
Chris
a guy-
McLeod was not scoring any headers. I'm going to tell you that now, Duncan. That's very distinct.
I'm going to call this out. If you ever follow Cola Cube, that does all the
Yes,
sort of
brilliant.
Yeah,
Honestly.
really good.
James Coots, right? James Coots goes on in everything and knows exactly what happened. He goes, I remember that game, and such happened, and such happened, and we were lucky to win. And I'm like, how? James is older than me. How do you remember that, James? Yeah? How do you remember that? Just recall a game from about 30 or 40 years ago. It's unbelievable.
I just, like, game by game, I just do not have memory for stuff like that at all. Robbie, have we ran out of clues?
So it's Fife Elite,
That was
scored
the final
against 2
clue,
former
yes.
clubs.
Played for Scotland's 19s.
Brother also plays in Scotland. Or they both play in Scotland at the moment.
Right, well, hang on a
Brother.
second. Right, so scored for the Rovers last season.
Yes.
Right, well, that narrows it down. We
So
didn't have
Huckett
that
scored
many
2
goals.
goals as well because he scored against 2 separate teams. There's
Right.
no
Lewis
Louis
Vaughan's not
Vaughan.
got a brother. Does
Aye.
Jack Hamilton have a brother?
Hasn't he played for Dunfermline?
Good point. Dylan
No,
Easton?
Zach Rudden.
No. It's certainly not that. Is that Rudden? It's not Sam Stanton.
Not Scott Brown. It's no Sean Byrne because he's no scored yet.
It's not Dan O'Reilly because he's Irish.
It's no Ross Matthews. It's no Dicko because he didn't score 2 goals.
The
I think it has to
sadness,
be Callum Smith.
the sadness in your
I'm
voice.
Locking
I know,
in
I'm
Callum
gutted.
Smith.
I've spent so much money on him scoring a goal. It's unbelievable. So many bets. Callum Smith is the only one that fits the criteria, I think.
It's Ross Milne.
Oh,
It's
really?
not really, it's Callum Smith. Duncan, your reaction is always like so pure when you win this. You're always like so
It's so
happy.
rare. This is, to be fair, it's a good job there's only 2 of us here.
And he sounds like a badminton player as well. Even better.
Like that. I should have
That
just
was a guess.
gone straight in with that.
You've
And,
joined
just
the one and
locked
done
in.
club.
Stopped paying attention after that. You just sound so badminton-y that it was never in doubt.
You did switch to Dylan Tate halfway through, but quickly corrected yourself. So yeah, he scored against Arbroath in Airdrie last season, I believe. So Arbroath had a short spell up there, but yeah, Callum Smith.
Callum Smith played for Arbroath.
Yep,
That just sounds incongruous. That doesn't like.
definitely played for Hamilton though.
You wouldn't have thought he was
Yeah.
a Dick Campbell player.
He's not Arbroathy at all.
No.
He's really not. That's
So yeah,
Callum Smith to me. Kind of Dundee vibes. I can see Callum Smith at Dundee like that. Arbroath, not a chance.
No.
Doesn't fit. Doesn't have those vibes. Not surprised it was only a short spell.
need to have a wee look and see. But it was actually when I was googling who he played against for like Scotland under 19s that. Right, he's played against Luxembourg, Armenia, and the Czech Republic in the under 19s European Championship, according to arbroathfc.co.uk. But it was when I was doing that. There is a professional boxer called Callum Smith, but yeah, there is also Callum Smith who played Scotland under 19 teams at the World Championships and achieved 10 Scottish junior national titles in badminton. Came up on the first page of the Google search. So there is a badminton player out there who might not be playing badminton anymore. He might just be, I don't know, labouring on a building site, or I don't know,
I don't think
paralegal in an
labouring on
office.
the building site somehow.
Aye, true.
We were chartered accountant somewhere.
Yeah, he's sitting in an office, unaware that he's been called out on a Scottish football podcast for having the same name as a Raith Rovers player.
When you said that he had 10 junior titles, it didn't occur to me they could have been in different age groups. I thought they were letting him come back and
Under
defend
5.
his title. This is the under 10s champion. He's 17, just scalping his bairns all over the place. That kind of intellect is why I don't often win this game. Right, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Robbie, for putting that together. It's always nice when I win one. We will see you all in Dunfermline on Saturday, I'm sure, and then we'll be back in the aftermath to break it all down, whatever has happened. So once again, as I say, thank you for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.